Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into the very foundations of modern literature in South Asia.
We're going back to the mid-19th century.
To really understand, the birth of the Urdu novel and how one of its very first texts gave us this perfect, timeless lesson in human psychology.
Exactly. We've looked at sources that define what a novel even is. We've traced the life of its founder, Maulvi Nazir Ahmad.
And this is the really fascinating part. We're dissecting a story from one of his books that is basically a step-by-step guide on how a con artist works.
It really is a masterclass in deception.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We want to map out the literary world that allowed the novel to even happen in Urdu. And then get right into the anatomy of this con, centered on a character named Husn, who is just brilliant at exploiting that line between faith and, well, greed.
Yeah, and it's not just a history lesson. This is all about how the demand for realism in stories, how that gave birth to a whole new way of looking at ourselves.
At our flaws.
At our flaws, our temptations, all of it. And to get there, we have to start with the big question. What actually is a novel? What makes it different?
Right. In the universal sense, what is its job?
At its most basic, a novel is a story of life. Life here on Earth. It's a big, broad narrative that's designed to chart all the different parts of the human experience. Birth, death, and everything in between.
So it's about the circumstances, the issues people actually face.
That's the key. It's not just a story. It's biography mixed with social commentary.
And the name itself, novel, that points to something new, right? A break from what came before.
It absolutely does. It comes from the Italian word novella, which means new or unique. And the whole genre really took off because, by the 18th, 19th centuries, people were they were tired of the same old stories.
The purely fictional mythological stuff.
Exactly. The fantasies. They started demanding stories that actually reflected real life, the things they saw and felt every day.
So this was a global shift toward realism. But how big of a deal was that in South Asia? Was it radical?
Oh, it was seismic. Utterly seismic. Before the novel, most stories were poetry, stylized romances, things that were aspirational, not documentary.
The novel held up a mirror.
It did. And our sources point to a definition from Coleridge that just nails it. He said a novel is an accurate picture of the life and society of the time in which it is written.
So it's anchored to a specific time and place.
It has to be. That's its purpose.
And to do that, you need a certain structure. You need ingredients.
That's right. You can't just have an idea. To make it a believable world, you need a story, a plot, characters, a setting, dialogue that sounds real.
And a point of view.
And a consistent point of view.
Yeah.
And the genius of Maulvi Nazir Ahmad was that he got this framework and he applied it to Urdu almost overnight.
And once that structure was there, the form just exploded, didn't it?
It did, immediately. You see all these different types of Urdu novels pop up right away.
Like what?
Well, you have the reformatory novel, or Islahi, which is all about moral education. Then social novels, Samaji, romantic, historical, detective, even psychological novels.
It's really interesting that the first one you listed is the reformatory one. That says a lot about the mission of the novel in Urdu from day one.
It really does. I mean, think about the 19th century. It was a time of huge social and political change in the subcontinent.
Right.
The novel wasn't just a fun story. It was a tool for social improvement, for guiding people. And that focus on reform brings us straight to the man himself.
Maulvi Nazir Ahmad, the pioneer.
Yes, the consensus is clear. Shamsul Ulama Maulvi Nazir Ahmad. He was a great scholar, a writer, a translator, and most importantly, the first Urdu novelist. He built the whole thing.
So give us the quick bio. Where did he come from?
He was born in 1830 in Bijnor, got his early education from his father, who was a teacher and another scholar. But his formal training was at Delhi College.
And that set him up for a career in the British administration, right? In the Department of Education.
It did. And this is where it gets really interesting, because his day job, his technical work, that's what actually forged the modern Urdu literary language.
How so? He was a translator.
He was. But he wasn't translating poetry. He was tasked with translating English legal texts.
Wow. Okay, so things like contracts, jurisprudence.
Exactly. Incredibly precise, technical language. And the thing is, English legal terms, they just didn't have direct equivalents in traditional Urdu.
So he had to invent them.
He had to, out of pure necessity. To translate these concepts accurately, he was forced to introduce new words, new phrases. He was basically modernizing the Urdu lexicon on the fly.
That's incredible. So he's building the tools.
And then he immediately uses those new tools to build the first novel. This is amazing synergy.
Which was his foundational work, Mirat-ul-Uroos.
The Bride's Mare, yeah. It came out in 1869. And that is, without a doubt, the starting gun for the Urdu novel.
And it was, true to that Islahi tradition, meant to educate young people.
Absolutely. Many of his works were. But the sources say his most important novel, in terms of character, was Tabatunasu.
Why that one?
Because it just went deeper. It had this beautiful, complex depiction of both good and bad qualities in its characters. It really opened the door for more psychological depth in Urdu literature.
So he really cements his place in history, continues his career as a deputy collector, and dies in Delhi around 1913.
And he leaves behind a whole field that he created. He paved the way for giants like Muchi Premchand. The tradition he started just flourished.
Okay, let's get to the heart of it. The deep dive into that excerpt from Mirat-ul-Uroos. It's called Our Mizaj Dar Guy.
Yes. And it's really a cautionary tale, but it reads like a playbook for manipulation.
So who are the players here?
You've got three main characters. There's Mizaj Dar, who is our naive, easily fooled victim.
Okay.
Then there's her husband, Muhammad Aqil, who is the voice of skepticism. And finally, there's Husn, the professional con woman.
And the setup is clear from the start. Husn isn't just an opportunist. She travels to the city specifically to do this.
Right. And a crucial detail is that Mizaj Dar had already been warned about women like her. But she ignores it.
Which tells you something about the victim's mindset from the get-go.
It does. It tells you she's predisposed to believe what she wants to believe. But Husn is smart. She doesn't just use lies. She uses a toolkit designed to build spiritual trust.
Let's break down that toolkit, because this is where the cultural detail is so important. She's using faith as a cover.
An incredibly powerful cover. She brings out items with immense spiritual weight, things like Kakeshifa, sacred earth from Medina.
Wow.
She has covers from the Kaaba. She has prayer beads, special kohl for the eyes, amulets.
These aren't just props. For a believer, these are symbols of authentic piety.
They're instant proof. If she has these, she must be trustworthy, maybe even holy. And once that spiritual trust is locked in, she goes for the personal weak spot.
She gets Mizaj Dar to confide in her.
And learns her deepest secret, the source of all her anxiety.
Which is that her husband, Muhammad Aqil, is unhappy with her because she can't have children.
Exactly. And that's where the con shifts from building legitimacy to active emotional manipulation. The trap is about to close.
Because Husn offers a solution.
A magical solution. And her method for sealing the deal is brilliant. It's the free gift.
The turquoise ring.
Yes. She gives her a turquoise ring for free. It's a classic psychological move. It says, see, I'm not after your money. The source actually says that Husn knew at that moment she had her trapped.
Because once you accept the gift, you're indebted.
You're committed. And then comes the cure.
The magical cure for her infertility.
Right. An amulet, a tawiz, and 2 little packets of powder, with very specific ritualistic instructions.
Tie one in your hair, put the other under your husband's pillow.
And Mizaj Dar, who is desperate, she does it without a second thought.
But then her husband, the skeptic, comes home. He's initially pleased.
Right. The house is clean, things look nice, but the moment Mizaj Dar mentions Husn...
Alarm bells.
Big alarm bells. Muhammad Aqil knows the type. He immediately tells her, be careful, don't let women like that in the house again. A very clear, direct warning.
A warning that she is about to completely ignore.
Because she's been blinded by the promise of the next big thing.
This is where greed takes over from reason.
Completely. Husn comes back fast, before that warning can really take root. And she dangles the ultimate bait, a very valuable jewel for a very cheap price.
The impossible bargain.
And that desire, that lalak to get this amazing deal, it just steamrolls her husband's advice. Reason is out the window.
It's the final distraction. Create a new overwhelming desire right before you make the big move.
And the final move is so simple. Surgical. Husn just says, give me all your current jewelry and I'll clean it for you. Put a new gold polish on it.
And Mizaj Dar, with her mind on the new jewel she's about to get, she just hands all over.
Every last piece. Husn walks out and the con is complete.
Leaving Mizaj Dar with nothing but regret. It's such a timeless story.
And the analysis in the source material is so sharp. It says her intelligence, her aql, was just overwhelmed by her greed, the hope for a bargain.
But there's another layer to it, isn't there?
There is. This is what's really fascinating. The text suggests that even Muhammad Aqil, the reasonable one, when he saw the cheap jewels Husn offered, he was tempted too.
Oh.
Which implies that this wasn't just about a simple woman's foolishness. It's about a fundamental human vulnerability. The lure of greed was strong enough to cloud the reason of both of them.
What an incredible piece of writing to launch an entire literary tradition. It doesn't just preach a moral, it actually deconstructs the psychology of temptation.
Exactly. So we've seen the literary context, Maulvi Nazir Ahmad and his first novel in 1869.
And we've seen how that novel, Mirat-ul-Uroos, gave us this deep dive into human behavior.
How quickly trust can be manufactured with the right symbols, and how quickly reason just evaporates when greed and the promise of a quick fix come into play.
And that's really the connection for you listening today. The problems of misinformation, of scams, they're not new. They're not a digital thing. They're ancient.
Right. Back in 1869, writers were warning people to be wary of anyone promising impossible bargains and easy solutions. If it sounds too good to be true.
Your reason might be getting hijacked by your desires, just like Mizaj Dar's.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to take away, and it comes right from the structure of Hajjan's Khan.
Okay.
She used items of profound, authentic, spiritual, faith-sacred earth from Medina, Kaaba covers, to pull off a completely secular crime, stealing jewelry. So what does it tell us about ourselves, about human nature, that we seem to be most vulnerable when a con artist mixes a spiritual promise with a material one?
That intersection of the sacred and the material, it makes us lower our guard. A powerful, powerful lesson. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.